Our first meeting with Minato, Naruto's father, is one where everything is revealed, where yes, we understand now that this is the man, he's the fourth Hokage, and he's the one that sealed the Nine Tails into Naruto. So this must have been obvious since part one because of how Naruto and both Minato looked like they were the same person, at least same hair color and same eye color. So I think it was purposefully made that we would know that it was the fourth Hokage. And so we were contemplating throughout the entire series about why the fourth Hokage had made this decision. And on a side note, I think it is purposeful that it was obvious because of the fact that Kishimoto could have swapped it around. He could have had Minato have the red hair. He could have had Minato be the Uzumaki. He could have had, but not surname-wise, it could have still been Namikaze, but he could have had Minato be the one with the red hair. But he made it specifically obvious, but I feel that he made it specifically obvious that Minato and Naruto have a relation to each other. So the way we view Minato is scumbag. How could you do this to your own son? And what we see is that Naruto himself also views Minato this way. And this does bring up also a point of contention that I have when it comes to how the anime depicted the scene compared to the manga, or at least the translation of the manga that I'm reading, and how it was not resolved, but how the conversation was conveyed. So Naruto and Minato meet each other, they are beginning to talk. So Naruto punches Minato, has this anger at him. He doesn't rant or rave like he does in the anime, but you feel this sense of tension in the scene where Naruto has essentially stating his position where he is upset with his father, and Minato has this self-awareness where he asks for forgiveness and is self-aware that he can't just put on a fatherly face and say, yes, I apologize and for everything that you've gone through and putting you through all of this. And Naruto reflects that, and you see this in Naruto where he resentfully says it's all right and says that he's the fourth Hokage's son, not that, oh, I'm your son, or you're my dad. He doesn't use any affectionate terms. He says, I'm the fourth Hokage's son, so I'll deal, you see, as what is expected of him. And in Naruto's mind right now, he's still a human sacrifice. He's still a Jinchuriki throughout everything that he's gone through, reflecting rather everything that he's gone through. And we see on Minato's face, as Kishimoto illustrated, I would say very well, an uncomfortable smile, an uneasy, uncomfortable smile, putting the anime aside. So what we see is that Naruto, through his eyes, at least from what we can ascertain throughout the whole series, the way he views the Nine-Tails situation and how he became a Jinchuriki is that he was just there, he was just born, and so of course he was taken as the obvious option to be the human sacrifice, to be the Jinchuriki. And then also Minato was thinking of the village politics and thinking that yes, there needs to be a balance of power. So in Naruto's mind, we can ascertain that he had these thoughts, so to speak, that Minato was all business about the decisions that he made. And so all in all, Naruto feels that he is truly a Jinchuriki. He's truly cursed with the Nine Tails, and he was simply a sacrifice for the greater good. Which is also amusing because Naruto's mother, Kushina, also had the same sentiment towards Minato's actions, as the first thing she said was, he's our son, when he was proposing this to seal the Nine Tails into Naruto. And you can tell that she was really looking at him as if, is he serious at this moment? Is he serious about putting their son through the horrors that she went through, that Minato himself was able to see that she went through? The burdens that she had to carry is now going to be on Naruto. And all this for the sake of politics. And it sounds shocking from a parental perspective. And so the audience, the characters themselves, the family members, both Kushina and Naruto, our thoughts and our worries are all squashed immediately when we see the next few pages, and then further on when we see when Naruto is able to see the flashback of the Nine Tails incident, where we now understand the fourth Hokage. It recontextualizes everything about Naruto's character and who he is to himself. And so what is revealed is that Minato didn't just do this because Naruto was just there and he was his son and it was convenience. He did it because he believed Naruto would be able to master the Nine Tails, as is mentioned in later on with Kushina. But in the moment, as we're discussing the moment where Naruto and Minato are meeting for the first time, it's revealed to Naruto himself in its own way that Minato believed in him just by Minato's nonchalantness, saying that, oh, I went through the trouble for a reason. It's because of the masked man. And so in that way, subtly, or even not even subtly, he wasn't even trying to say this to Naruto as a way of justifying what he's done, but he was just saying that, hey, I did this because I believe that you'd be able to defeat the masked man. And he didn't even tell Naruto about anything about Child of Prophecy or anything like that. He just simply said, yeah, I believe that you can defeat the masked man, and I believe that you could master the Nine Tails. And so for Naruto, this is so big because from the beginning of the story, Naruto was functioning as if he had something to prove, as if he had to earn everything that he has in his life. And so to be told that no, there were expectations put on him, that he isn't somebody that is simply ignored and a being of convenience, and that it's he himself who's trying to master the Nine Tails for his own reasons. But obviously this is drifted off because of what Yamato essentially says to Naruto. But now, as you would see in later chapters, Naruto gains a new vigor of mastering the Nine Tails, not out of nowhere, and not because there is a conflict next door. You know, in the next arc, we were going to face the Shinobi War. We don't know anything about that, but he is now mastering the Nine Tails, or attempting to master the Nine Tails, because there is that expectation of him. And that's something that Naruto has always wanted. He wanted acknowledgement of himself. He wanted acknowledgement that, hey, I exist and I'm important. And to have it so that the fourth Hokage basically confirms this by saying, oh yes, when you were born, I had this expectation. I sealed the Nine Tails in you, so I have this expectation that you will do great. Going back to the beginning of the meeting with the fourth Hokage, I really do enjoy that when we first meet him and Naruto coming to the conclusion that the fourth Hokage is his dad, that we started with happiness. We started with Naruto essentially being overjoyed that this is the case. But then we had an explosion of anger from Naruto about how he grew up, about the fact that he is the Nine Tails vessel. And it put Naruto in the position of confusion of what is his place in the fourth Hokage's heart, where the reader asks with the protagonist if Naruto was just a sacrifice for the village, or was he Minato's son? And so this is translated in his confusion of whether or not he is happy or sad. And so I like that he doesn't have this inner dialogue that asks these questions outright, but it is implied by the text. I also like the detail of Naruto instinctively calling Minato Pa, an affectionate term at the very beginning of their meeting, really reflective of his own character and what he wants. And what I mean by that is that Naruto is the type of person or character that would much rather not hate you, but would rather gain the bond that he's trying to make. But going back to the manga, when you see later on where Minato is talking about the Nine Tails, Naruto seems to revoke the title of Pa from Minato and tries to put a front on, a mask that's still dripping with resentment, where he simply says that he is the fourth Hokage's son and he'll deal with it, essentially. And so it shows that in Naruto's heart, in light of what he currently knows, he doesn't feel that the fourth Hokage deserves the title of Pa. But then later on, we see Naruto call his father Pa again, when it has been confirmed that the decisions that Minato made were from a fundamentally parental standpoint, and then later on justified through his position as Hokage. And this goes on in the very same chapter where you have Naruto asking Minato for the answer of hatred and how to solve the shinobi culture that exists. And because of narrative significance, he's asking the fourth Hokage. This has nothing to do with how Naruto feels about the fourth Hokage being his dad yet at the time, but it's more to say that, oh, fourth Hokage, do you have the answer for this? And Minato answers him not as the fourth Hokage, but as his father, and entrusts Naruto to find the answer. And he entrusts him and tells him he believes in him, and he says he believes in him because he is his father. So it's a parent's duty, as he says, to believe in his child. And so this basically solidifies to Naruto that Minato, or the fourth Hokage, is his father, and not in the sense of biological father, but father in its truest sense. And so Minato gains the title of Pa back, the title of father back. And so with Naruto's mother, it's the same thing. We have the business reason, and then we have the actual reason. So the business reason was that Kushina would show up when Naruto was trying to master the Nine Tails. But her actual reason is that she's showing up now, yes, for the mastery of the Nine Tails, but she also is here because Minato wanted Naruto to be able to meet his mother because of significant reasons were things that he felt that he couldn't say, that only a mother would be able to say to her son or child in general. And so he felt that Naruto had to meet her. And so this is the real reason, so to speak, where we have more than just one reason as to why this is happening at this time. And so also thematically, having Kushina here is also very important to Naruto, because it also shows that both parents had the faith and the trust in their son, and that expectation in Naruto that he would get to this point, that he would live to get to this point. And so it further solidifies in the narrative and to Naruto that his parents did love him and they did believe in him. They're not just simply saying these things to pep talk or to do anything else like that. It's through their actions that we see that they had trust in him. And so obviously, as I said before, to Naruto, this means that before anyone had the chance to look down on him, to have no expectations of him, or to have little expectations of him, he already had people who had the highest of expectations of him. He already had his parents. And so Naruto doesn't have this void or gap in his life, but it was always there. He always had those supportive parents in his life. And when you see Naruto and his mother's meeting, it's so obvious that this was not some type of strategic plan for Naruto to master the Nine Tails fully and all those things. Yes, she had the capability of assisting Naruto in mastering the Nine Tails, but we spent most of the time flashbacking into how something that you could say was completely irrelevant, which was how did the parents meet? And this is something that we see that Naruto is just genuinely asking this. You know, he's having a sit-down chat with his mother. And so we see that this is not a business deal. This is just for truly, I'm here to meet my mother. And that's why Minato sealed her here. Yes, of course, this wasn't only for the good feels. They did basically tease how the new form was going to look like by saying what happens when you combine the yellow Flash and the red Habanero, and then you get the orange Hokage, that referencing basically Naruto's transformation that he's about to receive. So the symbolism is already there for that reason. But I'm talking about the overall feel and meaning to Naruto in this video. In the flashback, Naruto gets to see, well, I assume he sees this, unless Kushina is just a great storyteller. But because rather, in the wall when Naruto's talking to Minato, he seems to imply that he saw the events. And what I mean by imply, I mean that the way he speaks about it is that Kushina didn't just simply talk about what happened, but actually explained what happened and showed him somehow. And what we see there basically is a whole justification and character explanation of Minato, because now we get to see as the audience, and hopefully Naruto also sees, that both his parents actually love him. And for Minato, it was essentially a lot of cleanup, because he was no longer this figure that he was just the fourth Hokage, who, from what little Naruto knew about him, was his dad, or felt like his dad. Because in some ways you could still say that Minato was just talking up Naruto, that he was simply just acting nice, but still had a very business side. But this flashback essentially refutes that. Some key things that we see is that Naruto is just like his parents. He takes different aspects from his parents, and at first we are led to believe that Naruto simply takes his attitude from his mother and then only the looks from his father. And well, we still get the face from the mother. But he also gains their hopes and wishes, with Naruto wanting to be Hokage, or announcing to be Hokage, in bravado. You know, it's a mixture of both Minato and Kushina's hopes and dreams, because what we see is that Kushina, the reason why she announced that she'd be the first female Hokage is because she didn't want to be snubbed and disrespected by the other kids. So it was basically bravado, or false bravado. Actually, I would say it was accurate bravado, because she is quite violent. She isn't acting like she's tough. She actually is tough. That's how she got her moniker. And then on Minato's side, he wanted to become Hokage because he wanted to gain everyone's respect. And so even though Naruto said these things in the past for his own reasons, it is essentially in the same vein and stemming in the same light from what his parents were feeling. Because on his father's side, Minato, as far as we know in the manga, is an orphan, and he wants to become Hokage, and he could want to become Hokage because of the same reasons Naruto wants to become Hokage, and that's to essentially gain a family and to be respected, to be acknowledged. So in Naruto's perspective, we see that he understands his father more as a person from how he was from a young age. Something else you could take from the anime specifically in relation to Minato is that they added in scenes, and I'm still muddling in my head whether or not this was for the better or the worse, but what they added was that Kushina was actually bullied by the Konoha children physically bullied, not just verbally, because in the manga it's only verbally. In the anime, it's also physically and beating on her, but then she would be too strong for them and was punching them out. And what we see is that Minato doesn't do anything, and he's even in the tree, and he didn't do anything, he was just watching. And of course, Kushina took this the wrong way. But for Minato, his justification is that he knows that she's strong and that she could handle herself, and so he didn't do anything. And so that in itself could give a window into Minato's personality, because what it tells us is that he would allow you to go through something harsh because he knows that you'd be strong enough to overcome it. And in that way, you could say that it explains also why he wasn't ranting and raving about how Naruto was treated, because when he was in the seal and he revealed that he had seen the past to Naruto, that the reason why he wasn't so angry at what had happened is because he knows the full story in the context of how Naruto was treated and how everything ended up, and he sees that Naruto was better for it, not for going through those things, but the fact that he was able to handle it, and so that's why he's not mad at it. So maybe you could add that in, but that is to be taken rather with a grain of salt. Circling back to Naruto, I think the way he progresses through the story after meeting both his parents is very interesting because it's nuanced. It's not as simple as his problems are fixed. And even if you did go through that route and say that his problems were fixed, it wouldn't damage the story. But this is just an acknowledgement that it is nuanced and that Naruto did fix a lot of his problems where there was a void in his heart, and now he doesn't have that void. But what we see is that he gains his parents' wishes. And Kushina acknowledges this when she's basically saying goodbye to Naruto. And she's having that inner dialogue, and inner dialogue is very important. It's the thoughts of a character, and usually the thoughts of a character is indisputable rather, because in the context of the story, of course, because it tells us what this person or character is really thinking about either the world or the other characters they're surrounded with. She says that Naruto is continuing their dreams, and their hopes and dreams did reach Naruto from when he was born and they were dying. And we also see this symbolically shown in the anime, the intro of the anime, in the last sequence where Naruto's holding, I forgot what that tree is called, but in Japan they write on cards their wishes for the future, and then they tie it onto that tree, and Naruto's holding a branch of that tree and it has these cards on them. And so yes, in context of the entire anime arc that is going on at that moment, Naruto had already entered the war, so Naruto's not only carrying his parents' wishes, but he's also carrying the wider cast, the world's wishes of peace into war. And so in that way, we see that Naruto gains that responsibility that comes from both his parents and also the world. And what we learn from the sage training, that Naruto is a child of prophecy and all these things. But the nuanced point that I wanted to speak about is that Naruto not only takes this in a positive light, but he also takes this in a negative light, where he starts overpressuring himself, where he starts to feel that he needs to take care of this war because he is the special character. He is the person that's supposed to end all things and bring peace. And we see that Itachi essentially points this out to Naruto and saying that Naruto is hyper-focusing on doing things by himself and forgetting that his greatest strength is that he has people around him, is that it's not that he's some super ninja who can do things on his own and can withstand any type of waves that come, whether it's physical or mental, but that it is because he is himself strong, but then he has support structure in his friends that he has made, and that they stop him from also folding in the event that these waves become too strong. We see this with what Hinata does, and also with Shikamaru, but that's another video that's going to be focused more on Naruto himself. If I were to backtrack a bit, I did find it quite amusing that Naruto shares such similarities with Minato, that when Minato wanted to become Hokage, when he announced that to everybody, that Kushina made fun of him because he looked unreliable and that he would never become Hokage. And then Kushina essentially takes the place of the village and everybody Naruto knew in the past, where they also looked at Naruto as if he was unreliable and that he wasn't going to amount to anything. But then in retrospect, it seems obvious that these characters would become the leaders of their respective villages. It's very obvious because they have so much going for them, whether it's their intelligence in Minato's case and being able to find Kushina when she was kidnapped when no one else could, or it was Naruto with the constant statement that he is incredible for whatever reason he was incredible, whether it was for holding back the Nine Tails or his ability to learn ninjutsu under handicap of the Nine Tails. And with that being said, we also see that Minato himself, Minato and Kushina in this panel, how happy they were that Naruto was simply born. which pushes forward the point that that is what, or rather that is the root of what they wanted from Naruto. Not that they wanted him to be some awesome shinobi, and that's the main reason why they had him, or be an awesome Jinchuriki that would control the Nine Tails for the benefit only for the village, but they were rather happy on a familial level that they have a child, and that you love that child. And then it is implied that Naruto himself can see this, and so Naruto is able to hear that Minato was shedding tears at that moment of his son's birth. And this is obvious because for Minato, we also know his background, that he too is an orphan, and now he is gaining a family member that is blood tied to him, and not only by marriage like Kushina is. Similarly with Kushina, she is overwhelmingly so more happy about Naruto's birth as well. And then later on in the story, even though she is telling Naruto that she is here because he is currently trying to gain control of the Nine Tails, the real reason why she's here is to speak with her son. And we see that Kushina is not a mission-focused character, and we see this through when she is explaining about her clan. She goes on to tell him how her clan and herself have super powerful chakra, and goes on to explore some of the lore of the Uzumaki and their ties to the Hindley village. But what we see is that she's not saying it in a manner where she is trying to force Naruto to live up to that standard, but she's simply telling him about family matters, about his history, just like how your own real-life family might tell you about your own family history if it's not particularly bad. And so with her character, there's that focus that she is simply a mother to Naruto. And on a side note, I also enjoy the detail towards Naruto's characterization, where what we see is that when Kushina is explaining to Naruto that she is a Jinchuriki as well, and her experiences in being a Jinchuriki, Naruto always seems to jump the gun and is angry on behalf of Kushina, but his anger is fundamentally self-projection, because at the very end when she tells Naruto the advice that Mito Uzumaki had told her, which is that to overcome the pain of being a Jinchuriki, you must fill yourself with love. It is only then that he snaps out of his projecting, and he realizes that, and even asks her if she was happy, even while she was still a Jinchuriki. And we see that she is happily able to say that she was happy. And this revelation brings tears to Naruto's eyes. And so the reason why I call this moment characterization and to a slightly lesser degree character development is because that's just how Kishimoto has shown himself to write his characters, and primarily Naruto himself, where if you track Naruto's growth throughout the series, you see that he starts out as somebody who essentially is projecting on others his pain, and so through that he's able to understand them. But then when we reach Shippuden, what we see is that Naruto is not able to do that because the source of their pain is fundamentally different from his own life experiences. And so Naruto has to go from understanding people because he had felt similar pain to having to understand people regardless of the roots of their pain. And of course, this was mixed in with all other types of emotions that he has at those differing moments. And so this type of character development is more subtle, which is obvious because Kishimoto is writing for a magazine that's aimed towards a younger demographic. So if you have ever had a child or are trying to teach a child something, saying something outright to them, they just won't understand it. They'll hear the words that you're saying, but they won't understand it. And so you need to make them feel it more than anything. Philosophical conversations with a child is very difficult, so you need to be very subtle in how you approach it. And if you know or have experience writing for children, you'll know that this is one of the major things that you need to learn and master when writing for a child-focused audience. And so linking this character moment for Naruto to his future events, it allows Naruto to try to no longer be essentially sad because he is a Jinchuriki. And you see this later on with his dialogue with Obito, where he tells him that just because he is a Jinchuriki doesn't mean that he is sad. And so going back to Kushina and commenting on that moment itself, I think that it was a very good way of doing exposition, as it was not only telling the audience how Jinchuriki are selected, at least for the Uzumaki, but it was also laced in with revealing more about the characters themselves. And so we were able to see more of Kushina's character, we were able to see details of Naruto's character and where he's currently at when it comes to the main theme of the story, which is understanding others. And so overall, it's just a good chapter, or rather scene, because of how much weightlifting it does storytelling-wise. And so because of the Nine Tails incident's flashback, we see that Naruto gains more of an understanding of Minato and the choices that he made that night. And we see that in the long run, when the Edo Tensei had revived Minato, and he was in his days where he was regretting and doubting all the choices that he had made to this point. And when he looks at Naruto, in the worry that Naruto resents him to some degree for what he himself has done to Naruto's life. And we see he attempts to apologize to Naruto for what has happened. But what we have is Naruto understands him in that moment and stops Minato from saying anything because he knows what Minato wants to say. Because Naruto has already met his mother's chakra. And so that interaction with Naruto is more of a moment for Minato because it affirms, and basically in a general sense, Naruto was doing a lot of cleanup at that time, where you see him refuting what Obito was saying about Minato. And you could see that Obito was using this as a method of torturing Minato and overall weakening his mental resolve. And so Naruto has to build up that mental resolve and try to get Minato back to his former self. And of course doing this by affirming Minato's actions as the correct actions. Because mainly in the end, Naruto got what he wanted from his father. Not only his love, but his expectations, which is something that Naruto was craving for his whole life. Because in Naruto's belief, he was nothing but a sacrifice to hold the Nine Tails. But because of Minato's expectation, he knows that he is expected to be a hero. Which of course again works so well for a character who begins wanting to be acknowledged to finding out that he does not need to fight for that acknowledgement, but already had it from his parents. With that, I would like to end the video. I do apologize for any confusion during the video. The Naruto series is not a linear story. It has important moments in chapter 3 that would be important in chapter 114, and then chapter 114 could be important to understanding chapter 5. And so it tends to bounce around in that way. And so I hope that I at least was able to provide a cohesive video, and if not, then obviously I'll take that loss. But at the very least, I hope you were able to enjoy the video and learn something new